did you know for every 100 people who join the Catholic Church, 840 leave? How do you think we're doing? What's the state of the church right now?
If you can't beat them, join them. And I think that's the route that quite a few cardinals and bishops have taken over the course of the last, couple of decades. But I think it's clearly not working. I think it's because we've been largely tricked. The classical liberal mode is, well, the marketplace of ideas. We're all on a level playing field and everyone's going to make their propositions. We're going to figure out which one is best. We're going to figure out which one brings the most happiness and the least unhappiness, right? Utilitarian.
And what do we do, especially in a crisis of the culture war where the influencer is going to influence your children more than you will?
Pew Research study showed by 76% almost of people who left the church said.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Hey, did you catch the report earlier this week that the Tate brothers have returned back to the United States? There are a lot of young Catholic men in particular who look at Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan as some sort of role models. I, for me and for my house, believe they're disgusting examples of a virus in masculinity and society and should be dealt with immediately and exactly. And in fact, the state of Florida has launched an investigation against them, by the way, now that they're back in the United States. And I wondered because in the era of the influencer, people like the Tate brothers, or even other examples like Taylor Swift, for instance, or TikTok stars, or whoever you'd like to name, is it any reason to believe that the results that we're seeing now reported by Crisis Magazine, that for every 100 persons that come into the church, 840 are leaving, when you're competing with the Tate brothers, Taylor Swift, and all of the rest? Well, I've invited someone who's on the Crunch Catholic podcast, who also has a website designed to try to help you bring back your lost loved ones into the faith, to convince your coworkers, your friends, your family members of the authenticity and the reality of the one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Patrick Neve joins us this morning to have the conversation. Patrick, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course, so good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
The stats are terrible. They really are terrible. I think it emphasizes that somehow it's a top-down issue, in my opinion. I'd love to get your take on that. But I think we've forgotten that our mission is to evangelize the whole world. Cardinal Dolan just this last week was, getting ready to welcome, hey guys, I know you Muslims are about to celebrate Ramadan. I hope you have a great one. Your Eminence, your job is to convert them, not to encourage them. What are we talking about here, Patrick? How do we navigate these crazy waters?
I think Catholics and Catholic bishops, obviously it's their whole job to notice these things. They feel like we are losing ground. And one of the two strategies is to, if you can't beat them, join them. And I think that's the route that quite a few cardinals and bishops have taken over the course of the last couple of decades, but I think it's clearly not working. It's just clearly not working. I think top down is definitely necessary. I personally, why we started the Convince Your Friends mission was because I didn't want to wait around for the top down approach. I spent a lot of time in parish ministry, and a lot of the parish ministry was contingent on the pastor even being willing to have that kind of missional attitude. And I saw a huge limitation. Both pastors I worked with were great, but I saw a huge limitation in my choice of evangelization, that I was always going to be dependent upon the willingness of a pastor to evangelize, to actually do my job of evangelizing, which I wasn't happy with. And so when I left, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to try and do something at scale that helps young people like myself evangelize their friends in a way that's not systematic and programmatic and let's get them all into, the donut hall for a Bible study. Let's do what the bishops have been saying for years and quote unquote meet them where they're at, which is at my house, or it's where it's at a bar, that's where my friends are at work. And so I'm going to meet them where they're at. I'm going to talk to them about the faith. And here's how to ask engaging questions that kind of probe the deepest issues and not focus on the surface level stuff,
Yeah. A lot of trad Catholics like myself we look at it and go, for the past 60 years post-Vatican II, we seem to be being told continually that you're supposed to just meet them where they're at. And just like, that's it. That's the extent of the whole journey, is just hanging out
and
with
it's
them.
not defined. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's confusing to say the least. So what does it look like then to evangelize? What does it actually look like? Who's responsible for what then in the church? Is the hierarchy responsible for evangelization? Are the lay folks responsible for that? Whose job is to do what?
The way I see, and I wrote a piece for America Magazine. Fun fact, not a great publication to tie myself to nowadays, but I wrote a piece for them as like their op-ed about the parable of the withered the tree that's withered, the withered fig tree, and how we often approach evangelization as a factory farm as opposed to a garden. And the bishop's idea is to kind of like create industries that quote unquote evangelize, and really all they do is check the box. They publish, I mean, they've been using the same We Believe textbook in Catholic schools now for like 20 years. And obviously people have been leaving for the last 20 years. So maybe let's shift strategy. I think what it is it's an all of us are responsible for evangelization, but in particular, every single person is responsible for the people they find themselves around. And that's the purpose of the Convince Your Friends. It's based around defining, actually, okay, meet them where they're at. All right, great. Where are they? They're in one of 9 places. And it's divided into like atheist, non-Catholic Christian, atheist, non-Christian believer, and then non-Catholic Christian. And it basically asks a series of 9 questions of like, okay, what do you agree with on the church teaching? Okay, and then what's the next step? And then the strategy is, don't talk about anything else until you've agreed, okay, the Bible is historically reliable. Okay, Jesus rose from the dead. Like, right, okay, God exists and we can have a relationship with him, right? Because we spend so much time focusing on the extraneous. The atheists will throw out the sex abuse scandal. The Protestants will throw out, Jesus, the rock means pebble, not rock. You know, like we'll have these arguments. And we'll kind of dive into these rabbit holes. But in reality, all these arguments come down to, you know, either nine questions, which are divided into 3 categories of: you don't believe that God is real, you don't believe Jesus is God, and you don't believe Jesus established the Catholic Church. Those are the 3 places someone can be. So like, let's stop complicating things and just teach Catholics how to answer those three major questions.
You know, I also do cringe often when I see members of the hierarchy, bishops, cardinals. I'm thinking of Cardinal Toglia right now trying to do a little TikTok dance or something, and it's just like, it always feels so cringy, so superficial.
That's not going to get them, you know.
And I go back to like the you know, I was highly critical of the World Youth Day, Father DJ Mix-a-Lot. You know, it's like, if all we're going to do is meet them and try to compete with the Tate brothers, Taylor Swift, or any other TikTok YouTuber, whatever, then we're going to lose every time, because they're way better at that than we are. I mean, so why? Like, to your point a minute ago, it's like, meet them on the foundation of what is truth versus meet them on the foundation of what is passing, what is shallow, what has very little value. Why does the church seem to be stuck in this mode of trying to be relatable all the time?
I think it's because we've been largely tricked. The liberal mode, and I mean like classically liberal, so this has been happening for 200 years. The classically liberal mode is, well, the marketplace of ideas. We're all on a level playing field, and everyone's going to make their propositions, and we're going to figure out which one is best. We're going to figure out which one brings the most happiness and the least unhappiness, right? Utilitarian. And the Catholic Church has been like, okay, great. We're obviously going to win because we're true. And then we go out on that playing field and we don't notice that it's tilted to the left. Because what happens is the left says, we're going to trans all the kids. And the conservatives say, no, we're not. We don't want to trans anybody. And the discerning centrist goes, well, how about we just trans the adults? And the curve is like, no, we want none of that. And then it keeps tilting left. And then all of a sudden the Overton window shifts. And this is what we see happening. When we compete on that marketplace of ideas, when we try to compete with the world that Taylor Swift is selling, we lose. But when we instead say, this is what's true, people are going to say you're a bigot. And you just have to say, okay. And then you have to keep needling them until they say, well, I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. And then you've taken them off of that level playing field and you've brought them into the Catholic world, which is, we're trying to decide as friends what is true. It's not two enemies trying to compete and figure out what idea is quote unquote best. It's two friends trying to describe reality. And that's how every Catholic needs to approach discussing the faith or politics with their non-Catholic friends. Is it needs to be an exercise in trying to find truth together as friends, first and foremost.
So, I guess I'm canonizing him. I shouldn't do that. But Benedict XVI, I don't know why I was trying to do that. But anyway, Benedict XVI, said the tyranny of relativism. Andrew Tate left Christianity specifically to become a Muslim because he thought it was more in keeping with his version of masculine spirituality. His religion is clearly relative to whatever suits his fancy at the time. That is also, I think, in these numbers that we are seeing here in this new release that Crisis Magazine has been commenting on, saying that the vast majority of those who leave the church are becoming nuns. They're becoming nothing. They're becoming secularists. They're becoming atheists, agnostics at best. So that's a whole different set of conversations. It goes back to something you said a little while ago. You have to, if you don't know what truth is, you can never have that conversation with these people, right?
Absolutely. And I like the article that you sent. He asked a question right towards the end, two questions. Why are these numbers trending downward, and how do we fix it? And he says rightly that we can't answer number two without number one. And there was another Pew Research study done a while back that I did a long thread about, because I asked my followers, why are people leaving the church? And all of them got the answer wrong. The Pew Research study showed it was by 76% almost of people who left the church said they left because they drifted away. And I think it was because when the church tries to be, on par with the world, people rightly say, well, why would I also go to church then? If all that Christianity is about is being a vaguely nice person and giving money to the poor vaguely, just writing a check and sending it off to Timbuktu, then why would I also go to church and follow all these rules? And I think that's honestly a fair question. And so I've seen it work too. The reminding people that the church is here and why the church is here is often enough to just bring them back. My pastor growing up, who admittedly, in happy memories, he's now deceased. He was kind of a boomery lib priest, but he went door to door in the neighborhoods around our parish, and he did bring people back and into the church. He just went and found them. You can just do that. The company that I work for right now, we publish magazines for Catholic churches. We design custom magazines for the parishes and mail them out. And we've seen mass attendance increase by 10% just by reminding people of the churches around. And so honestly, the low hanging fruit, the cream of the crop, we could just get them back by talking to them and inviting them back.
I just want to give a shout out to one of our great friends of the show, iCatholicMobile.com. Support for this program comes to us in part because of my phone plan with iCatholicMobile.com for our family, praise be to God, because a portion of the bill goes to support the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, iCatholic Radio, and A Catholic Take, praise be to God. You can check them out online. They are a wireless phone service for individuals, families, and they are providing free service to religious communities. More information can be found at iCatholicMobile.com. My cell phone company's Catholic. Is yours? Just curious. Anyway, we're having a conversation about the state of the church. We talked about the State of the Union, which, according to our straw poll, 79% of you say was great last night. That's fun. But we're talking about the State of the Union right now. And it's not looking good. The state of the church, rather. The state of the church isn't looking good. In fact, according to this article, which I'm going to link to in the show notes for you today from Crisis, it says only 29% of self-identifying Catholics attend Mass weekly. So only 29% of the 19% of Americans who identify as Catholic actually fulfill the Sunday obligation. So 19% of Americans are Catholic. And out of that chunk, only 29% go to Mass on a regular basis. And again, self-identifying Catholics who go to confession at least once a year is around 10%. It's a precept of the church. For you to be in good standing, you have to go to a confession at least once a year. But as few as 10% are going to confession regularly. Let that sink in. Joining us to have the conversation is the co-host of the Crunch Catholic podcast, Patrick Neve, who also has a great website. I'm going to link to it as well, convinceyourfriends.com. Patrick, welcome back to the show. So we talked in the last segment about truth. Truth is a person. That person is Jesus Christ, and he died on a cross to save souls. But too few of us will tap into the graces that he provided to us so that we might have the beauty and glory of the beatific vision for all eternity, as clearly the number states. So can the argument be made that the church, from the top down, I include us lay people, have we failed to teach truth to the world in a world that wants, desires, and demands that we just always be relatable? Have we just failed to teach truth?
Unfortunately, I think the answer is yes. And it's a shame because, I mean, we've been given a sacrament that is designed for evangelization and preaching. And we do give it to kids too late. Confirmation, of course, is the sacrament that enabled the apostles to go out and preach to an actively hostile Jerusalem, right? Like people have short memories. It was 40 days, it was 50 days ago, but they just killed Jesus, so they're about to go preach. And we don't tap into that grace, I think personally, that we've received it, but as a church, we don't tap into that grace. And it's a shame because confirmation is a sacrament that has enabled us to continue this far into history, 2,000 years. It's enabled us to keep going when things get difficult. And so I do think that one thing that the clergy could do, if you're listening, is to, which I'm sure you are, is to push the confirmation age lower before kids encounter the sin of the world, which is earlier and earlier.
They need the grace, right? It's the perfection of baptismal graces. They need these, especially in their teenage years. But I'm all right. Let's just say it out loud, Patrick, because some people say that they keep the age where it is because otherwise they just wouldn't come back. We got to keep those parishes full, So if we confirm them too young, they're gone and they don't come back. It's the way to keep them on the hook. It's Catholic graduation, Patrick. What would we say to that?
I think that argument would be strong if the numbers weren't so bad. If it were, like Catholics are sticking around after they get confirmed, then we got to keep it at a later age because that might be why. But they're still leaving. And so if that's the thing that's keeping them, it's not working very well. It's, the things that take them away, we give to them earlier and earlier. So like the encounter with the world happens earlier and earlier, right up into the age of reason. Kids are being given phones with access to the internet. I mean, it's at this point, you can't even say, oh, don't give kids technology because it's impossible. It's in their schools, right? It's unless you homeschool, obviously. It's just, they're going to encounter the world. And so we need to be giving them that grace earlier and earlier. And I was a youth minister. I used confirmation as a hook to get kids into high school youth ministry. It's not working anymore. They don't go if they don't want to, because parents aren't making them. The parents that made their kids go to church for the sacramental obligations are dead or dying or their grandparents.
Wow.
It's that age of the church is over. I was at a Steubenville conference and the speaker who'd been doing it for about 30 years was like, I know your parents forced you to come here. And I was like, literally every single kid in my youth group who came here wanted to be here because they don't go to things they don't want to go to. And so there's that little hook, it's gone. The age of that is over. We need to revisit that as a church, I think.
St. Charles Borromeo, when he entered into his diocese, he realized just how bad things were amongst the clergy, let alone the lay folk. So he implemented a re-seminarian formation for the ordained clergy. They were shacking up in town. They were carrying swords on their hips, not wearing clerics. And he pulled the Donald Trump on them and cleaned house. He got the Doge thing going in his diocese and cleaned house, but they didn't like it. But it improved things. It made things better. And then he reinstituted a better seminarian formation for the next class of ordained clergy. It seems like we kind of need that strong will from the top down to go through this again, because maybe parishes should be focused on catechizing the family, the adults, mom and dad, before it emphasizes the catechesis of the kid, because maybe if we change the lives of mom and dad, they will change the lives of their own children.
Yeah, and obviously, I hesitate. I hesitate to just talk about the hierarchy because there's so much that we could do as lay people. But I do know that they listen to this, so I would like to say, there's a reason why we call them fathers. My son doesn't like it when I brush his teeth, but I cannot emotionally care about that. My wife feels very bad when he's screaming and crying. She's like, "Oh, come on, you be gentle." I'm like, "No, he's got to brush his teeth now," and so it doesn't matter if he's crying or happy. And that is the fatherly role. So sometimes you can't let yourself be emotionally affected by the emotions of your children. And so and this is this fatherly role taken by the bishops, taken by the pastor, and then taken by the people that are delegated, that he's delegated his authority to, meaning like the CCD director. We need to take action. And the thing that I hear from CCD directors and professional Catholic lay people is that formation starts in the home, and that really rubbed me the wrong way after a while, because I kept hearing that, and we were doing nothing to form the home. We kept saying catechesis starts in the home, and I think we were passing the buck to the parents and saying, well, there's not much we can do. Catechesis starts in the home, and and if that's the case, and the home isn't catechized, I think parishes should, maybe one pastor, if you're listening, stop doing CCD for like 3 years and just make the parents come. Have childcare. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. Because obviously CCD isn't working for your parish. If you feel like it's not working, stop doing it. Start forming the parents and get them to form their kids. Mm-hmm. We tried something sort of like that at one of my parishes' family catechesis, where the parents had to come. They hated it because that was when they went to go do grocery shopping and get Starbucks. Right. But it really started working. Parents formed community and started working with their kids.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you say, because we're going to run out of time on the radio side here, but would you say for the lay folk, our job is to love our Lord so intensely that we would want to go to such a catechism class?
Absolutely. You should want to become a better apostle to your own children. Absolutely.
Amen.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.